Hey there everybody, and welcome back to more of The Swapper. Last time we got to meet the head watcher, and it seemed that Chalmers had something of a schizophrenic episode when she decided to change up her plan mid-gear, and now we don't even have an idea of what she has in store. All we can do is hopefully catch up with her yet again and find out what her plan is.
Well, I had hoped to reason with you, but trusting others to see sense is how we ended up like this. No, I won't ask you to examine the evidence and pick a side, only that you act in your own self-interest. I am going to land this station on the planet below. Unless you detach the solar panels first, Theseus will be destroyed.
So that's Chalmers' idea. To land Theseus. And I guess that's about the best we can do right now, though it seems almost suicidal considering that she wasn't planning on detaching these solar panels herself. And from what she just said, that would destroy the station. Yeah. Things have definitely gotten out of control in this portion of the ship. This foliage from the planet seems to have overtaken everything. And also with these gravity pads, everything has become very vertical, needless to say.
Now, you're looking for 3 solar maintenance modules. There should be one for each of the major control installations. I'm headed back to command. Have the panels detached by the time I get there.
Now, we are going to do that, but I wanted to backtrack really quick into that previous room, as there is something hidden in that room. The clue is this gravity panel here on the ceiling. We want to jump over that, which is a lot harder than it seems. And through the ceiling here, we can walk on through to find another hidden terminal. This one gives even more bad news, as it seems that now 2 out of the 3 stations are out of commission, leaving only Theseus. Which, as we know right now, is probably not the best thing to depend on. Also, in case you were wondering, no, we couldn't just make a clone up there due to the blue lights in that room. Now we get to deal with some very dangerous vertical shafts, which means a lot of, well, very necessary casualties in regards to our buddies. There's really no way to get around it in this area. Still, though, it is a nice change of pace from the usual corridors. Before we continue on, though, there was a memory terminal down there that I want to grab real quick. This one just goes into a bit about why the head watcher was moved. I think more interesting, though, it states that the head watcher definitely has a greater intelligence, and that it seems to pose no real threat. Which seems to contradict what Chalmers was saying before, that it killed the entire crew. It's really hard to believe anything that Chalmers says at this point. Either way, though, if we look, we see that we have 2 unexplored hatches. I guess we should start at the bottom here. Nothing too much in this particular room, just a shortcut to get back. But in this room we do find our first solar panel release. We're going to need to find 3 of these, though as you can probably tell from the console, it's going to require quite a few orbs for us to collect. Also, I kind of question just what all this plant life is and why it's grown so much in this area of the ship. It could be that silkworm organism that we heard mentioned in an earlier hidden terminal, but it doesn't really seem to be alive, and it doesn't seem to be doing anything other than giving us some interesting luminescence. Let's see what is no entry. It's a curious area. It's another solar panel release panel, or solar panel release mechanism. This one only requires 5 more orbs, so that could be a little bit more doable sooner. Still, as of yet, we haven't come across any new puzzles, and we just seem to be getting deeper and deeper into the ship itself.
We took the Watchers from their home. We pushed them. They fought back. Return them to the planet. End the fight. Oh, hell, you don't know the first thing about that device she's brandishing so nonchalantly. Why am I even bothering?
And definitely Chalmers seems to be getting more and more schizophrenic. It almost gives the appearance like we're talking to 2 completely different people at the same time. Here we have yet another intersection. We can just see how far, well, sideways we've gone. Can't really say up because it's just a different perspective of the ship. Suppose we might as well go ahead and explore satellite access, though. I have yet another shortcut and a watcher to listen to. Talks about that great chain that seems to interconnect that hive mind for the Watchers, but more importantly, we do have a short-range teleporter here. And that will bring us into our first available puzzle area for the video. You can see it's a little satellite floating off to the side of the station itself.
People don't like to hear that the soul is merely an array of chemical signals, that what it's like to be you is just the byproduct of a very powerful computer. I say that if you explain a magic trick by reference to magic, you've not explained a damn thing.
That is somewhat true, I suppose, but we don't have too much time to ponder on that before we crash into the planet's surface. So let's go ahead and start exploring unexplored hatches. So we have our first puzzle here, and we have our first sight of gravity pads in puzzles. Yeah, these are going to be a definite staple, probably for the rest of the game. And even though this might look a bit imposing, what with the deep pit above our head and all the red lights here blocking our beam, it's really not that difficult. The first thing we want to do is to flip ourselves up onto the ceiling and make a buddy near the orbs on the other side there. Then what we merely want to do is flip ourselves back down, which will only flip ourselves and not our buddy, and then make our way back over to him and line ourselves relatively up with him and then just switch places. We'll remain on the ceiling, and he'll remain on the floor, allowing us to pick up this... Whoa. Look at all those orbs. Yeah, this is an upgrade. An Inagon orb is 9 orbs in one, rather than the 5 or 3 or 1 we've gotten before.
Have you seen anyone else on board the station? No, I'm not sure either. Immaterial. You should be in a position to detach the first panel now. I shouldn't need to harry you. I'm sure you're as eager to see your rescue team as I am.
And that is an interesting question. Something that was kind of making me wonder a bit before is... I mean, we've never been in the same room as Chalmers. We've never seen them do anything directly. I mean, is Chalmers even there? It's a bit hard to say. But we have our second puzzle, dealing with more gravity pads and many of the other same mechanics. We have 2 on the ceiling, 1 on the floor, and some red lights blocking our way to just make our way upstairs there on that second platform. But, yet again, pretty easy puzzle to solve once you figure it out. First thing we want to do is we want to get a buddy up on that second platform. And then we want to get ourselves going up onto the ceiling. But we want to make sure and slow ourselves down in mid-fall. So we can pop a buddy up on the area there and switch places with him. That way we can now walk backwards to get on the upper ceiling. And now all we have to do is make our way over. And we can now safely switch places with our buddy next to the orbs.
When the corpus callosum separating the 2 hemispheres of the brain is severed, the result is a seemingly normal yet partially divided consciousness. The eyes sometimes see what the mouth can't name. I tell you this macabre detail to suggest that the mind is not a single transferable entity. It is a complex physical machine that bides tampering poorly.
And it makes one question then why Chalmers is, I guess, so quick to readily test on the human mind with the swapping device. I mean, if you're dealing with such a sensitive and complex machine, would you really just want to be swapping it willy-nilly without proper testing? Maybe this memory terminal can shed some light on that. Well, it does to a degree, though it is from Dennett rather than Chalmers. Goes into the idea that, yeah, maybe the swapping device shouldn't be used so freely and experimented with so freely. Though obviously Chalmers was more opposed to that idea. And here we have the final puzzle for the satellite. Very large, imposing room, lots of red lights, and a button that operates this pillar to go upwards. But this is probably the simplest puzzle of the satellite. What we have to keep in mind is that since we can get on the ceiling, we can actually get on the upper part of that pillar. So first we want to cause it to start going upwards. And then as we flip our way upside down, just put a buddy over there, switch places with him, and puzzle solved. These are all just a nice little introduction to the gravity plates, but things will be getting a lot more complicated. Yeah, just like that, we now have enough orbs to open up at least 2 of the solar panels. But I think our first destination is going to be for the 48 console. Figure we would try to do these as much in order as possible. Though I don't know, I guess before we do that, we might as well go ahead and explore that other hatch up there. At least we might as well maybe hit another shortcut teleport up there, so we don't have to deal with all these vertical tunnels anymore. Before we do that, though, there is a tricky, sneaky hidden panel, which requires us to do some extreme falling. Yeah, after we fall all the way down using as much propulsion as possible, We can find that the ceiling here is a bit fake. And as with most hidden walls, all we have to do is make our way down, and we can find another hidden terminal. Yeah, things are getting a little bit more distressing. The people on Earth have not been hearing back from Theseus, and they're a bit worried. Also, I think I'm getting pretty close to the end, even though it seems I might have missed message from home number 8. More than likely it's behind one of the solar panels I haven't opened up yet. Yeah, we are definitely getting close to the end of the game. This is the way to the command center. And that is where we know Chalmers to be. And we also see the final solar panel here requiring 93 orbs. But considering that we're getting 9 at a time now, that shouldn't be that difficult. Either way, let's go ahead and head to that 48 orb panel. Shouldn't be too long of a trek. Also, there's something about the foliage in the background. To some degree, it almost makes me think of possibly an RNA or even a DNA, the double helix of life. But let's go ahead and unhook our first panel. And as the panel drifts off into space, we can see that large looming sun in the background. Could be an almost majestic sight if we really didn't have more worrisome things to care about. But with 3 more unexplored hatches, that means we have more puzzles to deal with. And are we wielding a weapon? Possibly.
It's likely the Watchers aren't even aware they killed the crew, just as you're unaware when your immune system kills a virus. Once our fate was clear, Chalmers and I took steps to protect ourselves. No, the only way to survive is to land the station, to return them home.
Wait a minute. Did she just say Chalmers and I? I thought she was Chalmers, who is the I that she's referring to? Obviously I is herself, but she's supposed to be Chalmers. Either way, we have our first puzzle of the area. Starts us off a little bit more complicated than before. We don't have too much area to get to those orbs, but there is enough room, at least in there, where we can make a buddy. And that is where we are going to want to make the first one, but we are going to want to switch to the ceiling. And we want to make sure and leave enough room where we can walk backwards, because all we need to do is make a buddy up there on the floor. Not exactly parallel, because we don't have to worry about that buddy near the orbs walking off to his death. But yeah, now all we have to do is walk back into that red free zone and switch places.
It's not been easy working with that woman, you know. Everything is as simple as it looks with her. It's called the Swapper device because it swaps souls about. A fairy tale if ever I heard one. What if there's no soul to swap?
Still, I have to question, how do you define a soul in science? Is it the memories? Is it the consciousness? Is it something just caused by a chemical reaction in the brain to even signify that, I have a soul? Oops. Whoa. Sorry about that, buddy. Definitely things just keep on getting more and more philosophical as we get nearer and nearer to the end of the game. Here we have some pretty dire statistics about what ended up happening at some point during the life of the crew of the Theseus. It seems almost 124 people died in under 32 hours, and it seems the sickness has to do with when you start hearing the Watcher's thoughts. And that's definitely what we've been doing for the entire course of the game, so are we destined to die at this point? But yeah, another somewhat simple puzzle. Just got to have a clone buddy on the ceiling there and have him push the block out to the side. The main difficulty that comes with this puzzle is just making sure that you don't trap the block next to the wall, and that you can kind of line up the blocks. Because the solution here is pretty simple, though you might not think it would work initially. All we have to do is get a little bit of our buddy's head poking into the clearness there, and switch places. There we go. Now we have another 9 orbs.
Okay, landing gear is moving into position. Trajectory is plotted. Disengage the remaining panels.
And as we get closer and closer to getting enough orbs to open up that final panel, Chalmers, or whoever we're talking to, is moving further and further along with her plan. So let's go ahead and head up to the final puzzle in this area. Also, I'm a bit curious. I think this was what was causing that buddy's body to propel itself up and down and up and down. The sad thing is, just the initial fall killed it, but yeah, its lifeless ragdoll was just ricocheting up and down the pathway there. Pretty comically grisly. And here we have what was seriously the hardest puzzle in the game for my brain to wrap around. This, I kid you not, took me almost 3.5 hours to solve when I first played. Now, it may not seem like much initially because it's a pretty compact puzzle. We have 4 buttons, 2 on the floor and 2 on the ceiling, and as you can probably guess, each one of those buttons controls one of the doors leading over to the orb. The problem is that we only have 4 buddies, so even though we can use all 4 to press the buttons, we still have to have some means to move over to the orb without them moving off the buttons. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we want to have at least 2 buddies next to the walls here, because that will allow us to move to the very far left without moving them off the buttons. And the next thing we want to do is to figure out how to get 2 of our buddies after we move to the far left wall here onto those 2 buttons. Now we just need 1 more, and what you want to do is switch places with the buddy right below us. That way we can now shoot 1 standing on the floor. And now this is the tricky part. We want to jump up. because by jumping up, we will have a free buddy, and we can now safely get that set of 9 orbs. And that should give us enough to free that final solar panel.
You should have been able to detach the last panel by now. I hope we were right to trust those survival instincts.
Yeah, hopefully she can trust us, but can we really trust her plan? It's a bit hard to say, but well, I think we covered enough ground for this update, but we aren't going to finish off the game just yet. Instead, I do want to go ahead and finish those other areas, so after we unhook both the 66 console and the, I think, 93 console, we are going to finish up those last few puzzles, and then we're going to head off to Command to see just what Chalmers or whomever has in store for us. Oops. God, that's just so grisly, yet incredibly goofy. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and pop over to the teleport near the 66 orb panel. And hopefully you will join me next time as we get to the penultimate update of the Swapper. See you then.